Welcome back, ATO fans. I'm Joe King. I'm with the great Kent Wolverton, and this is our 7th message from the host.
7.1.
Yeah, we
might be on point 2 now, actually.
We're on point 2, and I'm hoping we don't have to have a point 3. We had some technical issues, and if there was a video going, y'all would be laughing and seeing how just spare and amateur we really are. So, this is going to be a New Year's edition. I want to give a year in review and a big thank you to our loyal listeners. I want to start off with Radco Lube Gun Oil. Met Steve that works there. Met him through the great Tanya Glenn. We all had dinner, and he sent me a care package full of. I got more lube than I know what to do with. I mean, I got a very great imagination, but I have a box of lube the SWAT guys are going to enjoy, and the narcotics folks, I'm going to send some there and out to the range. So thank you, Steve.
I was curious how you were going to package that. The gun lube, that is.
The gun lube?
Yeah, you nailed it. Well done.
Yeah, thank you. I have my moments. And this is on the 7.2. Jane and Jim Molino, your constant supporters. Without people like you and the philanthropy in this city, Danny and I talked offline that the city is not a great city because of the city leaders or for the city government, but it's for people that work behind the scenes in philanthropy for the first responders and the people who need it most. You are just incredible.
Yeah, we've got several families in this city that really run things, and we talk about informal leaders in the department all the time, but these are the actual leaders of the city of Dallas. And you've got the Dickey family, you've got the Caruths, you've got Tony Brinker. She's been huge for this police department this last year. There's all sorts of people that really kind of get things done around here, and I don't know that we would be as successful as a city or as a police department without those people.
No, people like the Caruths and the Dickeys, Maureen, Dickey and the Dickey Foundation, Betsy Orton. We couldn't do it without you. And the Brinker, there was something with canines, right?
She is constantly getting dogs donated to this police department, and just anytime we needed something when I was in K9, I knew that's exactly who I needed to go talk to. And more often than not, she would come to me and say, hey, this is what I've got for you, before I even asked for anything. She's just one of those people that drives this whole place, and she's still continuing to do it. And she's got One Community USA is a great group that works in the same fashion. We've got to have her and some of these other people on, because her whole thing is to bring everybody together, to have the civilians understand what the police department is doing and why they're doing it, and just to bridge the divide is basically how you put it best. She's pushing that message out there and been really great to me.
No, that's awesome, and that is why the city of Dallas is great for people like that. That a lot of times they work from the shadows, and I just want you to know that what you do for us is greatly appreciated. The Lone Star Corvette Club, we want to thank you for your donation. You are always in our corner, and I look forward to working some more fundraising events in 2023 with you guys. Thank you. I want to give a mention to the DPA Spouses Group. You ladies work your asses off in talk about behind the scenes and putting together our fundraising events, whether it's the clay shoot, the Kevin James clay shoot, the Corollo golf tournament that's our annual golf tournament, and it was y'all's brainchild is the Bags for Badges, our purse bingo that's July 15th. Imagine half-dressed first responders modeling high-end purses, playing bingo, cocktails and food involved, and it's an amazing event, and it's driven by the spouses group.
And that's interesting, because none of these events would go on if we didn't have volunteers.
No.
And this is just a huge group of spouses that come together and put on these events for us. They're always volunteering. Anytime you need something, there's a group of them that are available. And that's not the only thing they do. We talked earlier about how this group of spouses brings in new spouses, for new police officers or people who have just moved here or just getting involved in relationships with first responders. The way it's different than normal work. You've got shift work, you've got holidays, you've got weird things that happen to officers when they come home, and sometimes they're still dwelling on that and they're not 100% wherever they're at. You're not there in person or mentally. So to learn to deal with that and to navigate having a relationship with a first responder, having a group of people who can help you with that is just, man, it's big.
Well, your home life is theoretically, it should be your foundation.
Yeah.
Right? And to have a significant other there that's in your corner and really understands what's going on, because they're going through it too with you.
But if you look at police work, the way it's different, you usually have a group of people you work with that become like a second family because you're there with them at least 8 hours a day. If you get into any sort of specialized group, you're working with those people even more, and it's the same people over and over again. So those people become part of your family, and then you go home to your wife and you might see her for maybe 6-7 hours. So the majority of your time you're spent with other people, and then you go home to your spouse, and if you can't be 100% to them, at least there's another group that can explain what's going on with all that stuff too, because sometimes as officers we're pretty lousy at explaining what's going on.
Oh, absolutely. In your significant other, you could help fill your empty cup once once it's spent. Thank y'all, ladies. I want to give a quick shout out to Clint McNair and the TMPA. They have a new podcast out called Blue Grit. They've been supporting our first responders across the country, and now they're also giving their first responders a stage to tell their stories. Clint's episode is actually coming up, and I think you're going to be really surprised and astonished at Clint's career and his life, and also one of the co-hosts of the Catfish Cops, one of Clint's good buddies, Detective Godwin. He's an internet crimes against children and specialist there in Garland, and he came on as a guest co-host for that. Really heavy episode, but I think it's going to resonate with a lot of listeners. So y'all check out TMPA podcast Blue Grit.
Yeah, I think once people listen to a lot of these episodes, they'll start to realize why people are so passionate about the things they are. And it's interesting that sometimes it takes tragedy to bring the best out of people.
Yeah, absolutely. And in Clint's episode, you're going to hear pure tragedy that really redirected his career. And we've heard it in so many people that have come on. Some of our guests this past year and the year before, Kent, is Lance Crawford. I mean, Claggett. There's always something traumatic that happens that really shape who they are, and it's always going to haunt them.
Yeah, but again, the ability to take that and turn it into something positive for the rest of your life, for the rest of your career, it's remarkable.
Yeah. ATO is proud to let everybody know that we've been selected by the International Association of Special Investigations Unit as a recipient of their charity golf tournament for 2023. Thank you, Jeff Keel. You were actually on for our last message from the host, and I'm hooking you up with a helicopter ride along actually tomorrow. But every year y'all have a conference in a city across the country, and this year, 2023, Dallas is going to be the host city, and y'all pick a local charity to give the proceeds from your golf tournament, and y'all selected the Sissy Officer Foundation, and we can't thank you enough. Look forward to going out and helping at y'all's golf tournament, meeting everybody, and checking out y'all's conference. Thank y'all.
Yeah, donations are a huge part of running an organization like this. It's a nonprofit, so we'll take as much money as we can get. Looking at the numbers that you sent already, we're at almost $200,000 for the year. So any little bit of pocket change, any donations goes a long way to paying for this stuff that the ATO does. The confidential counseling is eating the budget up, but the counseling is needed. You've got to have it. The fact that more people are using it, it's great. It's tragic at the same time because that means people are struggling, but you don't have to be struggling to go see a counselor. Get ahead of it. Don't let it catch up with you before you catch up with it.
Yeah, if anybody wants to donate, they can go to atodallas.org, and we multitask, and if an officer is injured or ill or has a death in the family, we give financial assistance. But what Kent was just talking about, the numbers, the confidential counseling, we've seen a huge increase since 7/7/2016. But just from last year, we spent $107,000 just on the confidential counseling. That's for police and fire. Fire take up 31% of our yearly budget for 2022 anyways. So we're up from $107,000, and this year we haven't calculated December yet, but we're going to be pushing $190,000. So we've almost had a 100% increase just in the counseling. That doesn't even touch the monies that we spent on the assistance for injury, illness, or death. So the counseling is much needed, and and it's being utilized, but it does cost us.
I don't care what the cost is. I'll say it out loud. I'm not paying for it, so
right.
But it's worth it 100%. I mean, being able to go see a counselor, regardless of whether it's confidential or not, I think that's just, you can't put a price tag on that.
Well, you mentioned before, if you have a sore knee or you roll your ankle, you're going to go to the doctor. I mean, it's your body is symbiotic. It's a machine, and part of that machine, what runs that machine is your mind.
Yeah, what we said earlier was you don't want to learn to swim while you're drowning. You've got to start taking care of yourself before you get to the point that you realize you need help, and either establishing that relationship and finding a therapist that you want to talk to, or just making sure that you're okay still. You don't go schedule a physical because you're already feeling bad. That's called an actual doctor's appointment. If you got a checkup, a yearly annual deal, it's just like that, man. Your mind is just like your body. You've got to make sure that things are running right.
Yeah, and that's one thing that's really I'm proud to be a part of is our new Dallas PD wellness unit. Chief Garcia tasked Chief Ramirez with putting together something. It was over a year ago, and he has been working hard. And long story short, we finally now officially have a unit. We have a lieutenant, a sergeant, and 4 troops, and I'm part of that. We got Massey Black and Nicole Glass, but what we have a bigger network of, they're called checkpoint officers, and they are handpicked informal leaders in the Dallas Police Department that are all active, and they all are respected. They're well known. They are liked amongst their peers. But they're actually peers that have actually been in the trenches themselves and also had their own struggles. Kent, you're one of the checkpointers, and how it goes is we get all the critical incidents that not a lot of people even hear about: the suicides, the infant offenses and child offenses, and the homicides, the many homicides that people respond to, or the fatality accidents. Shout out to those traffic guys. They see gruesome scenes daily out there working these freeway accidents. So a checkpointer will receive a list of officers and a synopsis of the scenario of the call they went on, and they would just call and check on them. We're not counselors, but we're calling as a peer to check on one of our own, and also offer resources if they may need them. Just be an ear to talk to.
Yeah, the big thing that I like to get across when I talk to people is just say, hey, I want to check on you. I just want to make sure that you're okay. And I talked to them about how long they've been on, how long it took me before I went to counseling. Because sometimes you can navigate this career for a while and start putting things where you want them to be in the little boxes in your memory. But eventually those boxes are going to come open, and it's whether you open those boxes or another event opens that box for you. And again, you need to be in control, so going and talking to somebody, getting out in front of it is a way better idea than just waking up one day and realizing, hey, I'm too far gone already, and now I need to go talk to a counselor. Because that, God bless them, they do what they can, but I imagine it would be a whole lot more easy for them and more beneficial to us to be there ahead of time and to say, hey, this is what I experienced, this is what I'm going through. That EMDR is fantastic at taking things that are at the front of your mind and putting them where they belong in the back of your brain.
Yeah, this one thing, this wellness unit, that we don't wait for somebody to have an issue before we reach out to them, and we want to take a proactive approach and just reaching out and letting people know that we're there, and we want to normalize a culture of of self-maintenance and making people aware. That's what this podcast is. That's one of the missions of this podcast. It's not just entertainment. It's also to make people aware that, hey, other people are struggling. Other people have these incidents. This is how they dealt with them. This is how they could have dealt with them better. We want to educate. We want to make people aware. And just at the very least with this podcast, you might get a couple of laughs and be entertained. Talking about some, lube we got in the mail, for guns.
Well, the cool stories are fun, and
yeah.
I think there's a lot of value in those. But I think in discussing with those people who have triumphed in those situations, you get to see how they deal with it. And there's a lot of, it's just taking another tool and putting in your toolbox for later. This is how he handled it. This is what this person did. Maybe I can use that later. And that's one of the things I tell everybody I talk to on the phone for these checkpoints. I call them and say, hey, listen, I'm going to send you an email. I used to ask them, like, is it okay if I send you an email? But now I just tell them. Mm-hmm. There's that double-edged sword of me being a supervisor. I'm going to do what I want to regardless. So I'm going to send you an email, and it's got a lot of resources on it, and it's the OWL newsletter. I send them a link to the OWL newsletter and I say, hey, maybe it's for you, maybe it's not. But, maybe you see somebody else in detail who could benefit from these resources also. So save it, pass it on. I tell everybody, and I only call from my personal number. I call from home. I don't like to do it at the office. I feel like it's a more personal thing. Maybe it's just me and they don't realize it, but when I talk to you, I want it to be Kent. I don't want it to be Sergeant Wolverton. And I try to introduce myself like that, but a lot of people want to hang up on me when I'm like, hey, it's Kent. And they're like, So I have to introduce myself formally, and then I try to break down the formalness of it and actually just talk with people and let them know, it's okay to go see a counselor. You don't have to be in a bad mental space. You don't have to be in a bad head space. You can have a relationship with a counselor ahead of time. It did wonders for me. I didn't think I was in a really bad spot. I knew I'd been through some circumstances, but I didn't want to ever get to being in a bad spot. And I feel like taking that preventative measure and talking about it ahead of time, it's just like stretching before you run. You want to take care of your body. You want to take care of your mind. You got to do both.
Yep. We just want to. Dallas PD is finally going to prioritize officers' minds, body, and their families, and reach out. Now, there is no, as Sergeant Girdle like to say, that there's no panacea. The fix all, right? We can't. But this wellness unit, we're going to be ever evolving. We're going to be coming up with new ideas. You mentioned like you call these folks and you don't you talk about your rank. Well, Chief Garcia, starting after the first year, he's going to be making some of these calls himself. So are the 2-stars, Ramirez. We got Alonzo and Chief Martinez as a 3s, and we're going to have the 1-star Tina Schultz. She's Deputy Chief Schultz. She's been calling folks for months. She actually was one of the original core group, and she's been calling people, and she's even mentioned some people say, hey, I never actually talk to a chief unless it's something bad, and we want to normalize. We can't fix all, but Chief Garcia and Chief Ramirez, we're going to damn sure try.
And I've worked for a couple different chiefs on this department, and I never had a relationship with any of them until I promoted a little bit higher up. But there's not one chief on this department that I don't think doesn't care about people. You might not be able to show it. Sometimes it's easier if you don't have that personal relationship with people when you have to do chief things. And one of the big chief responsibilities that we see underneath them is the discipline. But I think that if we create those personal relationships, you won't have the same discipline issues. You'll that person now. It's not just a chief, it's not just a uniform with stars on the collar. Now it's a person that you actually know. And so I think you'll see, as we establish those relationships and as we start checking on each other more, we won't have the same problems that we're having. You won't have the discipline issues that you're going to see if you don't have those relationships. And I think that's an overlooked aspect of what we're accomplishing here.
Yeah, and if any other agency wants to reach out, and our model is not perfect, but it's ever evolving. If you want to reach out and see our what we got going here from our alcohol leave policy, you might listen to Gordon's episode, this episode 54 that we just put out. We've actually had several agencies outside of Texas and some fire departments within that are local that have reached out wanting a peek of our policy because they want to mimic it, and they want to help their folks like we've helped Gordon and many others.
I saw him in the parking lot the other day about a week ago, and just looking at him again, you know, I mean, even since I think it's only been a few weeks since we actually recorded that, but he just looks great. I mean, his eyes are so full of life. It's interesting. He's got very light blue eyes, and when he looks at you now, there's not a cloud in those skies. I mean, it's great.
You know, I'm proud of him. From the moment he walked in, when I first had a conversation with him, and then I met him here at the wellness unit, it's a night and day difference. He was down here in the office a couple weeks ago, and we were just BSing, and I'm really proud of that guy. And I just can't tell you how many complete strangers have reached out to me about his episode. Civilian and sworn have reached out saying that episode has really hit them and touched them, and it's much needed to hear. Thank you again, Gordon.
I hope that it does what we thought it would do, and bring more people to seek treatment for whatever their issues are at this point.
Some of the messages I'm getting, I believe it will, and has, honestly. Speaking of that, I want to give a big thank you to some of our fans across the country. I mean, there's a lot of messages I get, and if you follow us on Instagram and social media and Facebook, you'll see some of the messages I put up, and a lot of times most of the times I de-identify them, and I just kind of show just what was typed, and I share the messages with the core group. But there's a lot of messages I get that are sent personally that I don't share, that I just keep to myself, and getting these messages mean the world, and then it actually gives me fuel to keep doing this, and makes it feel like what Kent and I and Randy and Misty and Ed and everybody that's been involved with this podcast, that what we're doing is mattering to people. So I want to give a thank you to Vasura Ginsburg from New York, Cedar Rapids Officer Matt Janitschek. He reached out many months ago. I can't give all the details of why he reached out, but he sent a extremely long, deep email on what this podcast has meant to him professionally and personally. And long story short, I'm actually going to get to meet him after the first of the year. His department is looking to put together a wellness unit, and you know, he's kind of set up the connections, and I'm looking forward to meeting him and maybe having him on telling his story after the first of the year. Jared from Oklahoma, man, thanks for I owe you some patches. I'm going to be sending to you shortly. I want to give a shout out to Anthony Jepson, West Valley City, Utah PD, and the Violent Crimes Unit. Y'all sent me some amazing swag. Thank you. I didn't know. Dallas PD doesn't even have that much variety of swag. I can't thank you enough. Jamie Thompson of Wichita PD, you reaching out and saying what Misty's episode meant to you and what these episodes mean to you, and you love the stage that we provide for first responders. It really means a lot hearing from people like you. I know a lot of people may be thinking the same thing, that they don't reach out, but I want you to know we respond to every message. I may not publish all the messages, and I just kind of share them with a core group, and some I don't share, but they are really heartfelt, and they mean a lot to Kent and I.
Just got to stop you right there. You mentioned Misty, and it caught my attention. She's on Christmas break, and I haven't seen her. We need to, I think we got, 3 days left? We need to call her up.
Yeah, Misty, get up here.
Get her in the box.
So Misty, she's been on the dispatcher recording with Jillian Etheridge. That's upcoming, and also the great U.S. Marshal Chris White. His Part 2 Electric Boogaloo, Misty was there for, and that I gotta say, I love Chris' first episode. He is our third most downloaded, and this one is, I think it outdoes the first. I can't wait for everybody to hear that.
Well, I'm real happy that you got to see Misty, but I haven't seen Misty in a couple weeks.
All right,
now,
we'll set up a nice hug session for everybody.
I don't know if I can wait till spring break.
Yeah. So Wendy Moore, thank you for always tweeting about us. I've never met you, but I thank you for your feedback, and I look forward to seeing more tweets from you. I really appreciate you supporting the ATO and our podcast. Agent Rebecca Davison, thank you always for supporting us. You always reach out, and I really appreciated seeing that we were at the top of your Spotify list whenever you put your year in review there. Lastly, I want to talk about the great Southwest Nancy Rojas. thank you for always listening to us. And we've got a few mutual friends that I've heard from about you, talked about you. You may not even know this, but they said you're an incredible human being and a great street cop. And I look forward to seeing some more feedback and also some topic suggestions you say you have.
Now, Joe, I was scrolling through social media the other day, and I saw where you had posted something about some coffee going down. What's going on with that?
Yeah. So I want to tell listeners about a new partnership we have with the First Responders Coffee Company. I was contacted by Nick. He's a Florida SWAT member, about being a part of a sponsorship with the First Responder Coffee Company. Brent Tucker is the owner of the company. He's former Delta Force operator and also Green Beret. He has a passion to give back to the first responder community. He really loves what the ATO's doing when it comes to improving first responders' mental health with our confidential counseling. We are the first Texas law enforcement agency that they've partnered up with, so I'm pretty excited about that. You can go to frccoffee.com to check out their product and use a promo code ATO when purchasing, and they will credit the sale to the and all the profits go to directly to the ATO account. Again, just look up First Responders Coffee Company and use promo code ATO. I'm real excited about this future partnership with these guys and having many conversations and calls with them. I'm looking forward to actually getting them on for an episode too, because having a Delta Force operator and Green Beret and also
barista.
Yes, and now the barista and a SWAT operator out of Florida. I'm sure we got quite a few stories we could get out of those guys. Upcoming episodes, we have Dr. Eastman. That conversation, that is like three guys sitting in a room bullshitting, but it is what Dr. Eastman has accomplished is just amazing. Starting up the SWAT doctor program with Bob Owens and it growing to what it is today, and being chief of trauma at Parkland Hospital, which is one of the most historic hospitals in Dallas in Texas. And Kent, you worked with him closer than I have over there in SWAT.
He's just that guy that is constantly pushing the envelope. Always wanting to take things just a little bit further than they already are. And if there's an ounce of improvement that can be made, he wants to go ahead and do it. And man, just an inspirational dude when it comes to that.
Yeah, I'm excited. His episode, I believe, we're going to try to get out before New Year's. I'm hoping. Danny's got his work cut out. Danny's super busy being on Dallas SWAT himself, but Dr. Eastman, you're up next, followed by Clint McNear. We got Bob Gorski right after that, which is another. He has represented the Dallas Police Association for almost 5 decades, and there's not been a fight against the city of Dallas or just a fight against a department for an officer's behalf that he hasn't had a hand in across the state of Texas. It's not just Dallas PD he represents.
Yeah, no, he runs a really big operation, and it's crazy. The first time I needed to call him, I got the answering service, and I didn't really know how that worked, but I'm extremely grateful that it did, because things worked out well for me. But Bob and his group of attorneys, man, top notch all the way around.
Yeah, Zach and Snyder, and man, you're amazing, and I can't wait till we get out his episode. We got the Candelaria twins, aka the Allen Boys. They're coming up. We got great homicide detective Andrea Isom. She's actually up for the big Dallas Police Association Cops Cop Award. So keep fingers crossed for her that she may walk away with the top award for Cops Cop for 2022.
Yeah, at least in the top 12, huh?
Oh, she's at least in the top 12 in the department. But her episode, man, it's pure homicide investigations, which we have a lot of true crime. Going to that true crime podcast festival, I met quite a few true crime enthusiasts, and they're going to be interested in hearing hers.
I'm sure that's a great episode.
Yeah, we got Matt Smith, who has dedicated his life to Dallas SWAT, and that episode is I'm looking forward for the listener to. I mean, I've heard all these, but I'm looking forward to getting these polished up and giving them to you, the listeners.
Well, the feedback is a really big part for you. This isn't really easy. There's a lot of work that goes into it that I don't think everybody understands. From scheduling guests and co-hosts and getting everybody around, to editing it and pushing it out, and the social media aspect. And I know you've got some help with a lot of that stuff, but the feedback from the listeners really kind of fuels the entire fire to burn this thing down.
Yeah, as long as I have the, Agent Davison and Nancy Rojas and Matt, people like that emailing me and messaging me, these are going to keep coming, and we want to have a variety of topics and guests, and we have quite a few interesting people where we're going to sit down with after January 1, but we already have 14 episodes recorded that haven't aired yet. So, guys, y'all got a lot. Y'all got months of content that we're gonna be in your ear for at least half the year. If we don't record another episode, you're gonna have episodes to listen to.
Well, we've discussed just a myriad of different topics and people to bring on, but that's usually our ideas. So what's interesting is when people provide ideas of who they want to hear and what they want to hear. And, if you think of it, we pretty much got it on the Dallas Police Department or one of the surrounding agencies, or, the fire department, the counselors, whatever it is you want to actually hear. Your input's always welcome, and we'll do our best to set something up that matches what you're talking about.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, there's a lot of episodes that we've already recorded and we've already aired that have been suggestions from complete strangers. They've emailed me at atobridging@gmail.com, and hell, the Dynamic Warrant series, that was a suggestion. Having a homicide detective on, having JD Bias on the SWAT negotiator, that was from Sura. I mean, we've had so many people reach out and say, hey, what about this? Damn, that's a pretty good idea. Because our capacity for, being talented and creative, I'm pretty limited. So I kind of let other people carry me along. But, yeah, please email at atobridging@gmail.com. If you also want to donate to the ATO's cause, go to atodallas.org. And you can look up information on us, about our history, about the board members, or also if you want to donate, atodallas.org. Kent, you got some people you want to thank?
Yeah, I've got a few more. A lot of people come on here and really open themselves up, and I think the guests need a special thank you also. Not just for coming on, but for coming back oftentimes. They help co-host, they suggest other guests, they bring other people on. They really kind of bring out the best of this entire podcast, and I appreciate every one of those. I mean, we've got 53 released?
54. Yep, Gordon, 54.
That's a lot of people that have been courageous enough to come on here and tell their story. Some of them are very positive, and some of them aren't always positive, and it takes a lot to put that out there onto the interwebs and knowing that it's going to be out there forever. I'm going to spring this on you. I know I didn't tell you anything, but I want to thank you, man, for having the vision to do this and to see it through. We talk about how the checkpoints are therapeutic for us, mm-hmm. and listening to these was beneficial, but actually coming on and taking part and helping out a little bit, every one of those things is beneficial to me, and I've talked to other people that say the same thing. So thank you for doing this also. Well,
thank you a lot. It means a lot. Thank you for being a part of it. And I like to get my friends involved in this. I like to surround myself with good people and competent people, because it makes me look a hell of a lot better. And thank you for being a part of it. Thank you, Randy. Thank you, Misty. God, Misty, I love you. I can't wait to get you back over here, and apparently wants a bunch of hugs. Ed Lujan for letting us do this in first place and representing ATO, and Ed does not put a leash on me. He trusts me. I don't know why, but he trusts me being off leash to put this content out there. And I'm excited to see what we're going to do in 2023. we've already got, hell, I think we got 8 episodes you and I have recorded, and Misty and Randy, we've recorded that since you joined, and I'm looking forward to 2023 and getting a shitload more for the listeners.
Yeah, man, it's gonna be fun.
All right, till we meet again, be safe and let's take care of each other.